The rain came down in thin, cold needles that soaked through Lena Hart's jacket before she was halfway down the empty street. The city was quiet, too quiet. A dog barked somewhere in the distance, and then even that sound vanished. Lena pulled her bag tighter across her shoulder. Of course, she muttered under her breath. The one night I stay late, the universe decides to audition for a horror movie. Her sneakers splashed through puddles as she turned the corner. The streetlight ahead flickered, throwing her shadow long across the pavement. She rolled her eyes. Real comforting. She worked as a journalist at the Sentinel, a small newspaper with big ambitions. Tonight, she'd been finishing a story on a mysterious billionaire, Darius Vale, whose company kept buying abandoned properties all over the city. Rumor said he was reclusive, eccentric, maybe dangerous. The kind of man who didn't like questions. Now, walking alone through the rain, she regretted every joke she'd made about digging into the shadows. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Unknown number. Go home, Miss Hart. Stop asking questions that aren't yours to ask. Her breath caught. She looked around quickly, nothing but mist and empty streets. Nice, she whispered. Creepy texts, check. Next step, a black van. The wind shifted, carrying a faint metallic scent like blood. Lena froze. Okay, no. That's just rust. Or rain. Or my imagination going full Netflix thriller. But then she heard it. A sound like claws scraping against stone. Slow. Deliberate. Her heart slammed in her chest. She spun around and saw movement in the dark alley behind her. A shape, low to the ground, crawling closer. Oh, hell no. Lena backed up, fumbling for the pepper spray in her bag. Her hand shook. The creature stepped into the weak light, and she realized it wasn't human. Its eyes glowed yellow, and its teeth were too long, too sharp. What the? It leapt. Lena screamed, stumbling back, but before it reached her, a blur of black moved faster than her eyes could follow. A hand, pale and strong, caught the creature midair and slammed it into the wall with a crack that echoed down the street. The monster fell limp. And then she saw him. Tall. Dressed in black. His eyes a strange, burning silver that almost glowed under the streetlight. His face was beautiful in a dangerous way, sharp jaw, high cheekbones, lips pressed into a hard line. He looked at her like he'd been waiting. Are you hurt? His voice was low, smooth, and commanding. Lena could only shake her head. What was that thing? He stepped closer, his eyes scanning her as if to confirm she was unharmed. It was a ghoul. They feed on blood. They shouldn't be this close to the city. Ghouls. Lena blinked, then let out a nervous laugh. Okay, you're either insane or I'm dreaming. Or both. He tilted his head slightly. You don't believe what you see. No, I don't believe random strangers who kill monsters like it's a hobby. She took a shaky step back. Thanks for the rescue, but I'm good now. Really good. I'll just, forget this happened. When she tried to pass him, his hand shot out, catching her wrist. His touch was cold, but not unpleasant, like cool marble against her skin. Lena Hart, he said softly. Her blood ran cold. How do you know my name? He looked down at her, eyes darkening. Because you're mine. She stared at him. I'm sorry, what? You're mine, he repeated, each word deliberate, heavy. You always have been. She yanked her hand free. You've got the wrong person, Dracula. Try again. His expression didn't change, but his gaze softened, almost sad. No mistake. The mark has already chosen. What mark? Are you drunk? But when he reached out and brushed his thumb over the inside of her wrist, pain flashed under her skin. A symbol, faint and glowing like red ink, appeared for an instant, then vanished. Lena stumbled back. What the hell was that? Fate, he said simply. That's not an answer, he sighed, as if weary. You'll understand soon. I'll understand when I. Before she could finish, the sound of claws came again, dozens this time. More shapes moved in the darkness, surrounding them. The man turned, his body tensing. Too many, he muttered. Then, glancing back at her, hold on. Hold on to what? He moved before she could protest, wrapping an arm around her waist. There was a blur of motion, wind, and the city vanished beneath them. She gasped as cold air rushed past. The next thing she knew, her feet hit solid ground. They were standing in front of a massive mansion on a hill, shrouded in mist. Gothic towers. Iron gates. Every window glowed faintly with candlelight. Lena gawked. "Where the hell are we?" "My home," he said, stepping forward. "You're safe here." She followed slowly, still in shock. "Safe? You just kidnapped me." "I saved you," he corrected. "That's not the same thing." He looked over his shoulder, silver eyes catching the light. "It will be." The heavy doors closed behind her with a deep echo that made Lena jump. Inside, the mansion looked like it had been frozen in time. Grand staircases, crimson carpets, and chandeliers that glowed with real fire instead of bulbs. Lena stood dripping on the marble floor, clutching her bag like a weapon. "Okay. You've had your fun. Tell me where I am, and I'll call a cab." "You can't leave," he said calmly, removing his coat. "Oh, I definitely can." He glanced at her, one eyebrow raised. "You won't make it 10 steps past the gate. The creatures will find you." Lena crossed her arms. "Right. The Gowls. You expect me to believe this supernatural nonsense?" "I expect nothing," he replied, walking past her toward the fireplace. "But disbelief won't protect you." The firelight threw gold across his features, and for the first time, Lena noticed how inhumanly still he was. No rise or fall of breath. No heartbeat sound in the silence. She swallowed hard. "Who are you?" He turned slowly. "My name is Darius Vale. King of the Crimson Court." She blinked. "The what now?" He stepped closer. "The ruler of this land's vampire clans. The last pureblood." Lena laughed, a sharp, nervous sound. "Oh my God, you're serious." He nodded once. "You're in danger, Lena. You were marked the moment I touched you. The bond has begun." She raised her hands. "Okay, stop. Just stop. There's no bond, no marks, no vampire king. I'm human. You're whatever you are, but I'm not part of your creepy royal club." Darius didn't respond. Instead, he reached for a decanter on the table and poured a deep red liquid into a glass. He handed it to her. Lena eyed it warily. "That better be wine." "Try it," he said softly. She hesitated, then sniffed it. "Smells metallic." He said nothing. She set it down. "Yeah, no thanks, Count Chocula." Something flickered across his face, amusement, maybe. "You're brave," he said. "I'm terrified," she shot back. "I just hide it better than most." For a moment, their eyes met. The air between them thickened. Lena hated the way her stomach fluttered under his gaze. She looked away quickly. "So what happens now? You keep me locked up in your castle until I start craving blood too? If you wish to live, yes." Her eyes widened. "That's not funny. I don't joke." Lena exhaled, trying to calm herself. "Look, Darius, or whatever your name is, I'm not your mate, your queen, or your dinner. I'm leaving." She turned toward the door, but before her hand reached the handle, it swung open on its own. The hallway beyond was completely dark. A low growl echoed through the void. Lena froze. What was that? Darius's expression darkened. Proof. He moved so fast she didn't see him, just felt the rush of air as he appeared beside her, pulling her back from the door. Two glowing eyes blinked in the darkness, then vanished as Darius muttered something under his breath. The growling stopped. Lena stared at him. What just happened? He looked down at her, voice calm but firm. "You're safer with me than out there." That's not saying much. Darius's lips twitched, almost a smile. "You're difficult." "Thanks. I practice." He stepped back, his tone softening. "I don't wish to frighten you. But the bond is real, Lena. Our lives are now connected by fate itself." She rubbed her wrist where the strange mark had appeared earlier. "That glowing thing, what is it?" "It's the seal of the prophecy," he said. "Every 1,000 years, the fates choose a mortal whose soul can bind with a pureblood vampires. It grants us strength and balance." Lena frowned. "And what if I don't want to be Bound. He looked at her for a long time. Fate doesn't ask permission. She scowled. Then fate can go to hell. He chuckled quietly, a sound so low it sent a chill down her spine. You're unlike anyone I've met. Good. Then maybe you'll let me go. No. Of course not, she muttered, pacing. Kidnapped by a psycho vampire king. My editor's never going to believe this. You're still thinking like a human, he said softly. Because I am one. Not for long. Lena froze. What does that mean? Darius hesitated, then sighed. You're changing. Slowly. The bond alters the mortal's essence. It draws our souls together. Okay, that's enough, she snapped, backing away. I don't want your essence, your soul, or your weird vampire magic. I just want to go home. He stepped closer, voice low. You can't. Not yet. If you leave, they will sense the mark. And they will hunt you. Who's they? The ones who want to end the prophecy, he said. The ones who fear what we might become. Lena swallowed, feeling the weight of his words. She glanced toward the windows, rain streaking down like silver veins, and realized how far from normal her world had suddenly become. Finally, she sighed. Fine. I'll stay. But only until I figure out how to survive this twilight nightmare. Darius inclined his head. Wise choice. She shot him a glare. Don't get smug. I'm not here because I trust you. He met her gaze. You don't have to trust me. Just stay alive. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, thick, electric, uncertain. Then Darius turned toward the doorway, his tone softer. A room has been prepared for you upstairs. Rest, Lena. Tomorrow, I'll explain everything. She hesitated. And if I don't? Then you'll still be mine, he said quietly. Her pulse skipped, anger and confusion warring in her chest. You really need to stop saying that. He looked over his shoulder, the faintest trace of a smile curving his lips. I don't lie. And before she could respond, he vanished into the shadows, leaving her alone in the grand hall, with only the sound of her own heartbeat echoing through the mansion. Lena sank into the nearest chair, staring into the fire. What the hell did I just get myself into? She whispered. Outside, thunder rolled over the valley. And somewhere deep within the walls of the Crimson Mansion, something ancient stirred, awake, aware, and waiting for her. Lena didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that man's silver gaze, the way his voice dropped when he said you're mine. It echoed in her mind like a curse. The room he'd given her was large enough to fit her entire apartment inside. The walls were covered in deep red velvet, the bed a canopy of black silk. Candles flickered in gold sconces, throwing dancing shadows across the ceiling. It was beautiful and suffocating. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the locked door. You can't just kidnap people, she muttered. Even if you are some immortal vampire king with great cheekbones. She stood, pacing. Her bare feet sank into the thick carpet. Somewhere down the hall, a clock ticked. She tried the window, locked. Figures. But she wasn't about to sit here waiting for him to decide what fate meant for her. She needed to get out. She spotted a small letter opener on the nightstand. It wasn't a weapon, but it would do. All right, Lena, she whispered, gripping it tight. Just sneak out, find a phone, and call for help. Easy. She tiptoed to the door. It opened with a soft creak. No guards. No Darius. Just a long, dim hallway lined with portraits of pale people with cold eyes. Creepy family reunion, she muttered, moving quietly. The hallway led to a grand staircase. Downstairs, everything looked different at night, darker, colder. The fire in the hearth was out. Moonlight spilled across the marble floor, silver and ghostly. She crept toward the front doors, her heart pounding. They were massive, carved with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the moonlight. She reached for the handle, cold metal against her palm, and pulled. Nothing. Locked. Of course, she hissed. Behind her, a soft voice said, going somewhere. She spun, raising the letter opener like a sword. Darius stood at the base of the staircase, his long coat draped over his shoulders, his expression unreadable. Lena's heart hammered. Don't sneak up on people like that. He took a step closer. I warned you not to leave the castle. I didn't leave, she said quickly. I was just testing the doors. For security reasons. His gaze dropped to the letter opener. And the weapon? She lifted it. Decorative. He almost smiled. Almost. You think that tiny blade could hurt me? I don't know, she snapped, but I'd sure like to find out. He sighed, and the sound somehow managed to sound both exasperated and amused. You're reckless. Yeah, well, I don't take well to being held hostage. He stepped closer, the air between them tightening. You think I enjoy keeping you here? I don't know what you enjoy, but this, she gestured around the room, this isn't normal. He stopped a few feet away, his voice lowering. You're right. It's not. Nothing about this bond is normal. But that doesn't make it less real. She crossed her arms, refusing to back away. Then you unbond it. I can't. You mean you won't? He didn't answer. His silence said enough. Lena shook her head, frustration bubbling up. You keep talking about fate and prophecy like I'm supposed to just accept it. But I'm not part of your story, Darius. I'm just a person. I have a job, a life, friends who are probably wondering where I am. They think you're away on assignment, he interrupted softly. She froze. What? I made sure your world believes you're safe. No one is looking for you. Her stomach dropped. You, how? His eyes darkened. Power has its uses. Rage flared in her chest. You had no right. He stepped forward again, his voice low, dangerous. If I hadn't intervened, you'd be dead. Those creatures would have torn you apart. You think you can walk away, but fate doesn't care what you want. She glared up at him, trembling but defiant. I don't care about fate. I care about freedom. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The firelight flickered back to life on its own, as if responding to their anger. Then Darius exhaled, long and slow. You won't survive out there. You don't get to decide that, she said. He reached out suddenly, catching her wrist before she could pull away. His touch wasn't rough, but it was unyielding. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to still. Let me go, she whispered. I can't, he said quietly. Not until you understand what you are. What I am. His hand released her slowly, and his expression softened. You feel it, don't you? The pull. The warmth when I'm near. The mark doesn't just bind me to you, it's changing you. Lena's throat tightened. You're lying. Look in the mirror. He turned and vanished into the shadows before she could speak again. Lena stood frozen, her wrist still tingling where he'd touched her. Slowly, she walked to a nearby mirror. At first, she saw only her reflection, pale skin, dark circles under her eyes, damp hair clinging to her face. Then the faint glow reappeared on her wrist, spreading like veins of red light beneath her skin. Her breath caught. What's happening to me? She whispered. And in the mirror, for just a second, her pupils flickered gold. Lena woke the next morning to the sound of footsteps outside her room. Sunlight filtered weakly through the curtains, though the sky beyond looked unnaturally grey. Her wrist still burned faintly where the mark had appeared. She wrapped it in a bandage, as if hiding it might make it less real. There was a knock at the door. She jumped. What now? The door creaked open, revealing not Darius, but a woman. Tall, elegant, with skin like polished ivory and eyes a deep crimson. Her smile was small, careful. My name is Myra, she said softly. The king asked me to bring you breakfast. Lena eyed the tray she carried, fresh fruit, bread, and what looked suspiciously like a cup of blood. I'll just stick with the fruit, thanks. Myra set the tray down. You shouldn't refuse his gifts. It's unwise. Lena crossed her arms. Unwise sounds like vampire for rude. Myra's smile widened slightly. You're bold. That's why he chose you. Yeah, well, I didn't choose him. You will, the woman said simply, and left before Lena could respond. Lena stared after her. What is wrong with everyone in this place? She paced for an hour before deciding she'd had enough. Whatever Darius wanted to explain, she'd demand answers. She found him in a vast library, standing before a window draped in heavy red curtains. Shelves of ancient books surrounded him, their spines marked in strange symbols. He turned as she entered. "You're awake." "Yeah, no thanks to your bedtime horror story," she said, walking closer. "We need to talk." He gestured to a chair. "Then talk." Lena sat but kept her distance. "I saw it. The mark. It's glowing again." "What did you do to me?" "I didn't do anything. Fate did." "Don't start with that again." "I'm serious, Darius." My eyes, they changed. Just for a second. He studied her, his expression thoughtful. "It's happening faster than I expected." "What's happening?" "The bond. It's merging your essence with mine." "That sounds gross." "It's irreversible," he said quietly. "You were chosen for a reason." She laughed nervously. "Right, because I'm so special. A coffee-addicted journalist with bad luck." His gaze softened. "You underestimate yourself." "Stop doing that," she said suddenly. "Doing what?" "Looking at me like that. Like I'm something sacred." "Because you are." She rolled her eyes. "Unbelievable." Darius stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You think this is a coincidence? That I found you by chance? I think you're insane." He smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Perhaps. But that doesn't change what you are." Lena leaned back, crossing her arms. "Fine. Enlighten me. What am I?" He hesitated, then said, "The vessel of the red soul." She blinked. "That sounds like a terrible band name." He ignored her sarcasm. Centuries ago, the first vampire king was cursed by the fates. His line would die unless bound to a mortal soul capable of balancing his hunger with humanity. Once every 1,000 years, that soul is reborn. And now, it's you. Me. You're saying I'm reincarnated vampire therapy? He almost laughed. Something like that. "This is ridiculous," she said, standing. "You expect me to believe some cosmic matchmaking prophecy?" He moved faster than she could react, appearing in front of her. "You've already felt it, haven't you? When I'm near. When I touch you." Her heart skipped. "That's not fate. That's adrenaline." He leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then why does your pulse quicken when I speak your name?" Her breath caught. "Stop it." He didn't. "Why do you tremble, Lena? Because you're standing too close. Or because you know I'm right?" She stepped back, cheeks flushed. "You're impossible. And you're denying what you already feel." She glared at him. "You don't get to tell me what I feel." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Darius turned away, walking toward an ancient stone pedestal near the window. On it sat a dagger with a blade like black glass. He picked it up carefully. "There's one way to prove the bond." "Oh no," Lena said quickly. "Whatever you're thinking, the answer's no." He met her gaze. "It's called the blood oath. A vow sealed between fated souls. Once complete, the bond cannot be broken. You'll see what you are meant to be." "Yeah, hard pass." He took a step forward, the dagger glinting in his hand. "It's painless. That's what kidnappers always say before it gets weird." "I won't hurt you," he said quietly. "I'd die before I harmed you." The way he said it, soft, certain, made her stomach twist. "You're serious?" "I've never been more." She shook her head. "No. I don't want your blood magic or your destiny. I just want my life back." He exhaled, lowering the dagger. "You can't return to who you were, Lena. The mark won't allow it. But I can protect you." "I don't want protection," she shouted. "I want choice." He looked at her for a long moment, then turned the blade on himself and drew it lightly across his palm. The wound shimmered red before closing almost instantly. "I can't force you," he said. "But I can show you." He extended his hand. "Take it." She stared. "What happens if I do?" "You'll see the truth." Her instinct screamed no, but curiosity, the same thing that made her a good journalist and a terrible rule follower, burned stronger. "Fine," she muttered, "but if this turns me into a vampire, I'm suing someone." She placed her hand in his. His skin was cool, the cut still faintly glowing. The moment their palms touched, A surge of heat raced through her arm, straight to her heart. Images flashed behind her eyes: blood, fire, a crown, a battlefield. A woman who looked just like her standing beside Darius centuries ago. Their hands bound in light. She gasped and pulled away. What was that?" she whispered. "The truth," he said softly. "You've been here before. You've always returned to me." She shook her head, backing away. "No. That was a trick. A hallucination." He didn't argue. "You can deny it. But you can't escape it." Lena's breathing came fast. "You're wrong. I'll find a way." He stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "Then may fate forgive me for what comes next." She frowned. "What's that supposed to?" The windows shattered. A gust of cold air tore through the library. Shadows moved across the walls, creatures, snarling, eyes like coals. Darius spun, his voice turning sharp. "They've found us." What are those things?" she cried. "The Council's assassins. They know you're marked." One lunged, but Darius met it mid-air, his movements a blur. He struck with inhuman strength, bones snapping, blood spraying across the marble. Another rushed him. Lena ducked, grabbing a heavy book and hurling it at the creature. It actually hit. "Ha!" she shouted. "Take that, demon thing." But there were too many. Darius moved to shield her, his fangs bared now, eyes blazing silver. "Stay behind me. Trust me, that's the plan." The fight was chaos, steel against claw, shadows, and fire. Lena crouched low, heart pounding. One of the creatures grabbed her arm. Pain seared her wrist. She screamed. Darius turned, fury twisting his face. He struck the attacker down with a single blow. Then he was beside her, grabbing her wrist. The mark burned brighter, spreading light through the room like lightning. The creatures shrieked and disintegrated into ash. Silence fell. Lena collapsed against the wall, shaking. What just happened?" Darius looked down at her, eyes softer now. "You saved us." She stared at her wrist, still glowing faintly. "I didn't do anything." "You did," he said. "The bond reacted. It protected you and me." He helped her to her feet. For a moment, she didn't pull away. His touch was steady, grounding. She looked up at him. "What are we?" He smiled faintly, sadness in his eyes. "Bound by blood. And fate." Lena swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't ask for this." He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his hand trembling slightly. "Neither did I." And somewhere deep within her chest, despite everything, a spark of something dangerous began to grow, something that felt like both fear and desire. The rain had stopped, but the castle still smelled like smoke and iron. The attack had left burn marks across the marble and blood that the servants silently scrubbed from the floors. Lena watched them from the top of the staircase, her wrist still faintly glowing beneath the bandage. Darius stood below, issuing orders in that low, commanding voice that filled the air. Even without shouting, everyone obeyed. His presence drew all attention, cold, certain, dangerous. He looked like a king carved from stormlight and shadow. Lena hated that her heart skipped when his eyes flicked briefly toward her. She hated that she cared at all. Myra appeared beside her. "You should rest," she said gently. "I'm fine." "You're pale." "I'm always pale," Lena muttered. Myra smiled faintly. "You survived your first attack. Few mortals can say that." "Yeah," Lena said dryly. "Go me." Down below, Darius finished speaking to his guards and turned toward the staircase. Lena immediately turned the other way, pretending to study a painting. It didn't work. "Lena," his voice called, smooth and deep. She froze. "If this is another talk about destiny, I'm out." He didn't answer. When she turned, he was already standing a few feet away. She hated that he could move without a sound. "We need to talk," he said. "Every time you say that, something insane happens. This time will be different." "Somehow I doubt that." He gestured for her to follow him into the dining hall. The long table was covered in silver and crystal. A feast of food, and Lena noticed several crystal decanters of dark liquid. "Please," he said, pulling out a chair for her. Sit. Planning another ritual? No. Dinner. She sat, suspicious but curious. He took the seat across from her. You really eat? She asked. He smiled slightly. I can. I don't need to. Right. Vampire metabolism or whatever. He poured wine, real wine this time. You should eat. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten since yesterday. Yeah, kind of hard to have an appetite after watching monsters explode into dust. Then think of this as recovery. She sighed, stabbing a piece of roasted meat with her fork. Fine. But if this is poisoned blood magic food, I'm haunting you. He smirked. Noted. For a few minutes, they ate in silence. The fire crackled behind them. She could feel his eyes on her. Finally, she set down her fork. All right, say whatever it is you dragged me here to say. He leaned back, expression unreadable. You're handling this better than I expected. That's your opening line? You've seen death, power, and the beginnings of transformation, he said. And you're still here. Still fighting me. Most mortals would have lost their minds by now. Lena snorted. Give me time. His lips twitched in amusement. You remind me of someone. Oh. Let me guess, your last kidnapped soulmate. His gaze darkened, but he didn't take the bait. My mother. That surprised her. Your mother? He nodded. She was human. Brave. Defiant. She never bowed to anyone, not even my father. What happened to her? She died saving me, he said quietly. From those who wanted me dead before I was crowned. Lena hesitated. She wanted to stay angry at him, but something in his tone softened her. I'm sorry. He shook his head. Don't be. I've lived with it for centuries. Centuries. She studied him. How old are you, exactly? He smiled faintly. Old enough to remember the world before your kind built cities. Okay, ancient. Got it. You think immortality is a blessing, he said. But it's a long, empty curse when you're alone. She frowned. Is that supposed to make me feel sorry for you? No, he said softly. It's meant to make you understand me. The way he said it made her chest tighten. She looked down, pretending to study her glass. Well, I don't. Not yet. I can live with that. He stood and moved toward the fire, resting one hand on the mantel. You asked why you were chosen. Why fate would tie you to me. She crossed her arms. Yeah, I did. Still waiting for that answer. Because only a mortal can remind a monster what it means to have a soul. Lena blinked, caught off guard by the quiet intensity in his voice. That's poetic, she said, but also really depressing. He turned to face her, eyes burning faintly silver. Then let me show you something less poetic. He snapped his fingers. The torches along the walls dimmed. From the shadows beyond the windows came a low, rumbling growl. Lena jumped. Please tell me that's not another monster. Darius's gaze didn't waver. It's one of mine. The doors opened, and a massive black wolf stepped inside. Its eyes glowed red, its fur like smoke. Lena's pulse spiked. You keep that thing as a pet. It's a guardian, he said calmly. It protects the realm. It's terrifying. It's loyal, he corrected. Loyalty is rarer than fear. The wolf moved toward Lena. She instinctively backed up. Darius raised a hand, and the creature stopped instantly. See, he said. It obeys my word alone. But it senses what I feel. And right now. He paused, stepping closer to her until she could see the faint reflection of fire in his eyes. It knows I don't want to hurt you. Her breath caught. Good to know, she said softly, even though her voice trembled. He smiled faintly. Eat. Then rest. Tomorrow, the council will meet. You'll be presented as my mate. Lena stared. You're joking. I never joke. Well, start. Because that's not happening. It must. Why? So your vampire buddies can glare at me while you play king? They need to see that you are real, he said simply. That the prophecy has begun. She shook her head. You're out of your mind. Perhaps, he said. But the world already moves against us. When he left, She sat there for a long time, staring at the fire. She didn't believe in destiny. But she couldn't deny the spark that ran through her every time he looked at her. It terrified her more than any monster could. The castle slept under a heavy silence that night. Lena wandered the halls restlessly, unable to shake the unease crawling under her skin. Darius's words replayed in her head, "The council will meet." She needed to know what that meant. And more importantly, what else he was hiding. She remembered seeing a locked door near the end of the west corridor earlier. It had strange carvings along the frame, symbols like those on the front gates. Curiosity burned stronger than fear. She found the door easily. The lock glinted in the moonlight. She tried the handle. Locked. Figures. Looking around, she spotted an old hairpin on a nearby table. She grinned. "Thank you, universe." After a few minutes of fumbling, the lock clicked open. "Ha," she whispered triumphantly. The door swung inward, revealing a dark, cold room. Candles lined the walls, unlit. A single table sat in the center, covered in old scrolls and glass vials filled with crimson liquid. The air smelled of dust and iron. She stepped inside, lighting one candle. The flicker of flame illuminated drawings, circles of runes, maps, and portraits. In one painting, Darius stood beside a woman who looked almost identical to Lena. Her heart skipped. No way. She moved closer, reading the plaque beneath the frame. Lysandra of the Red Soul, Queen of the Crimson Court. The woman's eyes were the same shade of brown as hers. The same curve of lips. The same mark faintly visible on her wrist. "That's impossible," she whispered. Her gaze drifted to the papers on the table. Most were written in an old language she couldn't read. But one journal entry was newer, written in Darius's handwriting. "The mark has appeared again. The cycle begins anew. If she is truly the one, the curse can finally be broken, or it will destroy us both." Her hands trembled. "What curse?" she murmured. "Mine," said a voice behind her. She spun around. Darius stood in the doorway, half in shadow. His expression was unreadable. Lena's stomach twisted. "You scared the hell out of me. You shouldn't be here." "Then maybe stop locking all your secrets in creepy rooms," she shot back. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "You don't understand what you've seen. I saw a painting of me, of her. Whoever she was. Lysandra," he said quietly. "The first queen. My first mate." Lena swallowed hard. "She looks exactly like me." "Yes. That's disturbing. It's fate." "Stop saying that," she snapped. "Fate, destiny, bond, do you ever listen to yourself? You sound like a cult leader with better fashion." His eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone. Or what? You'll lock me up again." He didn't answer. Lena crossed her arms, trying to steady her voice. Who was she really? Darius hesitated, then said, "She was human. Like you. The fates joined our souls, but the power consumed her. She died to protect me and cursed me with immortality without peace." Lena's anger faded. "So you think I'm her reincarnation?" "I don't think," he said. "I know." She shook her head. "You can't possibly." He moved closer, his voice low. "Every 1,000 years, her soul returns. And every time, she dies because of me." That stopped her cold. "Because of you? The curse. It binds my life to hers. When she dies, I live on, forever, remembering her." Lena's chest tightened. "That's horrible." He nodded once. "It is." Silence hung heavy between them. Finally, Lena asked, "And this time? What happens if the cycle repeats?" His gaze met hers, fierce and raw. "I won't let it." For the first time, she saw something human behind his control, fear. Real fear. "You think you can fight fate," she whispered. "I have to." He stepped closer until she could feel the cool breath of his presence. "You don't understand what you mean to me, Lena. You're not just my salvation, you're my undoing." Her throat tightened. "You talk like we're characters in a tragedy." "Perhaps we are." The candlelight flickered, throwing shadows across his face. He looked at her as though memorizing her, like if he blinked, she'd disappear again. Lena took a shaky step back. I can't do this. I can't be her. You already are, he said softly. She turned to leave, her hand trembling on the door handle. Then you'd better find a way to break your curse before it kills us both. She slammed the door behind her and ran down the corridor, the echo of his voice following her like a whisper in the dark. I'll never lose you again. Morning came slowly, filtering through the castle's tall windows like pale gold dust. Lena hadn't slept again. The memory of that forbidden room haunted her, the painting, the journal, the woman who looked exactly like her. Lysandra. The name echoed like a ghost in her thoughts. She sat curled on the bed, staring at the faint mark on her wrist glowing softly beneath her skin. It pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, as if alive. Stop it, she muttered, tugging her sleeve over it. You're not real. A knock at the door made her flinch. Come in, she called warily. Myra stepped inside, holding a folded black dress. The king requests your presence in the council chamber. Of course he does, Lena said dryly. Let me guess, more talk about fate. Myra's expression didn't change. He wishes for you to see our world. Lena frowned. I've seen enough. Blood, monsters, mood lighting, check. The council won't wait forever, Myra said softly. You'd be wise not to test their patience. Right. Because they're vampires too, I'm guessing. Myra inclined her head slightly. Old ones. Older than the king. Lena sighed. Great. Can't wait to get judged by ancient undead politicians. Still, she changed into the dress. It was simple but elegant, long sleeves, deep neckline, fabric that shimmered faintly when it caught the light. As she adjusted it in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. When she arrived at the council chamber, the air felt heavy. 12 figures sat at a long table, their faces pale, their eyes reflecting candlelight like glass. Darius stood at the head, his presence filling the space. Lena, he said, his voice calm. Come forward. Every gaze turned toward her. She lifted her chin. So this is your fan club? One of the council members, a tall, stern man with silver hair, snorted. This is the mortal. Another, a woman with skin like marble, leaned forward. She reeks of humanity. Lena forced a tight smile. Perfume. It's called soap. A low murmur rippled through the room. Darius shot her a warning glance, but his lips twitched almost imperceptibly. Victor, the silver-haired vampire, sneered. You bring a human into this sacred hall and expect us to accept her? She's not just human, Darius said. She's the chosen vessel. The one the prophecy spoke of. Murmurs rose again, disbelief, anger, fear. She's a liability, Victor hissed. If the prophecy is true, she could destroy us. Darius's tone turned sharp. Or save us. Lena folded her arms. You're all talking like I'm not here. Victor's gaze flicked to her. You shouldn't be. Lena took a step forward before she could stop herself. You don't even know me. Maybe stop deciding my fate like I'm some magical battery pack. The marble-skinned woman smiled coldly. Bold. Foolish, but bold. Thank you, Lena said. I get that a lot. Thank you, Lena said. I get that a lot. Before anyone could respond, the torches flickered. The temperature in the room dropped. Darius's expression changed instantly, alert, tense. Something's wrong. A guard burst through the doors, his armor scorched. My king. The wards are failing, shadows are breaching the courtyard. The council rose in unison, chaos breaking out. Darius barked orders in a language Lena didn't understand. He turned to her. Stay behind me. Yeah, no problem, she said, backing up quickly. They rushed from the chamber into the main hall. Smoke coiled through the air like dark mist. Shapes moved within it, creatures of pure shadow, clawed and whispering. Lena's skin prickled. Please tell me those aren't specters, Darius said grimly. Souls of the damned. Well, that's comforting. He drew a sword from his side, the blade gleaming with a faint red light. Get behind me. I can help, she protested. Not yet. One of the specters lunged. Darius sliced through it, the blade burning with white fire as the creature disintegrated into ash. Another appeared, its whispering voice crawling into Lena's mind. You don't belong here. He will ruin you again. She clutched her head. Stop it. Darius turned, slashing through another shadow. Lena, focus. Don't listen to them. But the voices grew louder, merging into one. You are his curse, his doom, his forever punishment. The words echoed through her skull. Her wrist burned, and light flared from beneath her sleeve. Darius froze mid-fight, eyes widening. Lena. The mark blazed bright gold, and the specters recoiled, screeching as beams of light shot from her skin. The shadows dissolved instantly, leaving only smoke and silence. The hall was still. Lena's knees buckled. Darius caught her before she hit the floor. What just happened? She whispered. He held her close, his voice low. You've awakened it. What? The power of the red soul. I didn't do anything. You don't have to, he said. It responds to danger, to me. She looked up at him, dazed. To you? He nodded. Because our bond is complete. Her heart hammered. Complete. What does that mean? His gaze softened. It means we are one. Before she could speak, he lifted her into his arms. I can walk, she muttered weakly. I know. His voice was gentler than she'd ever heard it. But let me protect you this once. As he carried her down the corridor, she noticed something different in him, something that scared her more than the monsters. It wasn't anger. It was fear. Not for himself. For her. The next evening, the castle was quiet again. Too quiet. Lena sat by the window in her room, staring out at the mist-covered courtyard. She hadn't seen Darius since the attack. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those shadows and the way her skin had glowed like sunlight. The word bond echoed in her head. She hated how part of her wanted to see him. To ask him questions. To hear his voice again. A soft knock broke the silence. Come in, she said, trying not to sound too eager. Darius stepped inside. His black coat was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up. He looked almost human like this, less king, more man. I didn't mean to wake you, he said. I wasn't sleeping. He studied her for a moment. You should be. Yeah, well, glowing like a human light bulb kind of kills the mood. A faint smile tugged at his lips. You saved us. More like accidentally exploded some smoke ghosts. Nevertheless, he said, you did what even the council could not. You're stronger than you realize. She looked down. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. You're allowed to be. Do vampires get scared? She asked quietly. His expression darkened. Every day. That answer caught her off guard. You don't look it. I learned long ago to hide it. He moved closer, stopping a few feet away. Fear makes mortals human. But for us, it's weakness. She studied his face, the hard lines, the stillness. Must be exhausting. He smiled faintly. You're the first person who's ever said that to me. Well, someone has to remind the brooding vampire king he's allowed to have feelings. He laughed softly, a sound she'd never heard from him before, low, warm, unguarded. For a moment, the tension between them shifted. The air grew thick, heavy. Darius looked at her, really looked at her. When you laugh, it feels like sunlight. She blinked. That's oddly specific. It's true. Her pulse quickened. You should stop saying things like that. Why? Because they make it hard to hate you. He smiled. Then I'll say more. She shook her head, half laughing. You're impossible. I've been called worse. He took another step closer. She could feel the faint chill radiating from his skin. He reached out slowly, as if giving her a chance to move away. She didn't. His fingers brushed a strand of hair from her face, lingering just a moment too long. Lena, he said softly. Her breath caught. Yeah. If fate were cruel enough to offer me one choice, it would still be you. The words hit harder than she expected. She should have pulled back. She didn't. He leaned closer, the space between them shrinking. She could see the flicker of silver in his eyes, the faint tremor in his breath. Darius, she whispered. Don't. I shouldn't, he said, voice rough. But I can't. He stopped, inches from her lips. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then he pulled back suddenly, as if burned. Lena blinked, her heart racing. What was that? He turned away, jaw tight. A mistake. Didn't feel like one. It would have been, he said quietly. You don't understand the hunger, Lena. Once it begins, I can't stop. Not without hurting you. Her chest tightened. You'd never hurt me. He met her gaze, eyes dark with conflict. You don't know what I'm capable of. Then show me, she said, surprising herself. Stop hiding behind fate and curses. I can handle the truth. He stared at her for a long time, then exhaled slowly. The truth is, I want you more than I've wanted blood, power, or peace. And that terrifies me. Lena swallowed hard. Then maybe we're both terrified. Silence stretched between them, heavy and charged. Finally, he stepped back, his expression unreadable. Rest now. Tomorrow we face the council again. They won't stop testing you. Let them, she said, forcing a small smile. I'm getting good at surviving impossible things. He paused at the door. That's what frightens me most. Why? Because the last woman who said that didn't survive. He left before she could reply. Lena sat frozen, her heart still racing. She touched her wrist, the mark pulsing faintly beneath her skin. She didn't know what she was becoming. She only knew that she couldn't escape him anymore. Whether it was fate or something darker, the bond between them was no longer just magic. It was a heartbeat. And it was hers. The morning came with a sharp bite of cold wind sweeping through the castle's open corridors. Lena walked beside Darius through the long marble hall, her boots clicking softly against the floor. Neither spoke. The tension between them hung thick, heavier than the air itself. The almost kiss from the night before kept replaying in her mind, his breath against her skin, his voice rough with something between hunger and regret. She wanted to hate him for pulling away. She wanted to hate herself for wishing he hadn't. Where are we going? She asked finally, breaking the silence. To the archives, he said. There are things you should see before the council gathers again. Oh good, she muttered. Because I didn't get enough cryptic vampire history yesterday. His lips twitched slightly, almost a smile. You have questions. It's time for answers. They descended a winding staircase that spiraled deep beneath the castle. The air grew colder, damper. The walls changed from polished stone to rough rock, torches flickering in iron brackets. When they reached the bottom, the space opened into a vast cavern filled with shelves upon shelves of books, scrolls, and relics sealed in glass cases. Lena's eyes widened. Okay, wow. Dracula's library just went full Hogwarts. Darius gave a quiet laugh. These archives hold the history of every royal bloodline since the first turning. Which one's yours? He gestured toward the far wall, where a black banner embroidered with crimson thread hung above a locked chest. The Vale lineage. She followed him as he knelt beside the chest and pressed his palm against the lock. It opened with a faint hiss of magic. Inside lay a collection of ancient scrolls, bound in red silk, and a single silver dagger etched with runes. Darius lifted one scroll carefully and handed it to her. Read this. She unrolled it slowly. The writing was elegant but faded. Thankfully, a translation had been written below in smaller script. Her eyes scanned the words, frowning. The blood of the hunters and the blood of the damned were once one. But betrayal split the line, and vengeance cursed their kin for eternity. She looked up. What does this mean? It means, Darius said, his voice quieter now, that vampires and hunters share a common origin. She blinked. I'm sorry, what? He nodded. Before the first curse, our ancestors were one people, warriors bound to the same power. But pride divided them. Some embraced immortality. Others swore to destroy it. Lena frowned, rereading the words. So, my family could be part of that. His expression darkened. They aren't just part of it. They are its legacy. She felt a chill crawl down her spine. You're saying my ancestors were vampire hunters? He didn't answer. The silence said enough. Lena stepped back, shaking her head. No. No way. My parents were normal. My mom was a teacher. My dad worked construction. They weren't. Your father's name was Nathaniel Hart, Darius said softly. Her heart froze. How do you know that? His gaze met hers. Because he was once a member of the Hunter's Order. Lena's breath hitched. That's insane. He never mentioned anything like that. He wouldn't have, Darius said. The Order's code demanded secrecy. But I knew him. Her stomach twisted. You're lying. He shook his head slowly. He came for me 15 years ago. He and his partner tried to breach this castle. She stared at him, her world spinning. You're saying my dad tried to kill you? Darius didn't flinch. Yes. Her throat closed up. And you? I didn't want to fight him, Darius said quietly. But he forced my hand. It was self-defense. Lena felt her knees weaken. You killed him. He didn't deny it. The words hung between them like smoke. She turned away, trembling. You murdered my father. He would have slaughtered my entire court, Darius said. He wasn't the man you remember. She spun around, tears burning her eyes. Don't you dare tell me who he was. You don't get to decide that. His jaw tightened, pain flickering across his face. I take no pride in what I did, Lena. But if I hadn't stopped him, hundreds would have died. I don't care, she shouted. You killed him. Her voice cracked, and she pressed her hands to her face, trying to breathe. Darius took a step forward, his voice breaking for the first time. I have carried that sin for years. Every night I hear his voice. Every time I look at you, I see the life I destroyed. Then maybe you should, she said hoarsely. Maybe that's the curse you deserve. He flinched as if struck. Lena turned and walked toward the stairs, her vision blurring with tears. He didn't stop her. When she finally reached her room, she slammed the door and collapsed against it, shaking. The truth hit her like a blade. Her father hadn't died in an accident like her mother said. He had died here, fighting the man who now claimed her as his fated mate. She didn't know whether to scream, cry, or break something. In the end, she did none of those things. She just sat there, silent, as the weight of it all pressed down until she could barely breathe. Lena didn't see Darius for 3 days. She barely left her room. Myra brought food that went untouched. The mark on her wrist kept glowing faintly, mocking her. She tried everything, covering it, ignoring it, even wrapping it with salt-soaked cloth she'd read about in some old text from the library. Nothing worked. Every night she dreamed of fire. Of her father's voice shouting her name. Of Darius standing in the ruins, his hands red with blood. On the 4th night, the door creaked open. Darius stood there, his face pale from lack of rest. You haven't eaten. Maybe I lost my appetite after learning you killed my family, she said flatly. He stepped inside. I didn't want you to find out this way. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there a better way to tell me my entire bloodline was part of a centuries-old murder feud? He exhaled. You're angry. Wow. How observant. Let me explain. Explain how fate decided my dad had to die, she snapped. How convenient. He looked at her, eyes filled with something she couldn't read. You think I wanted this bond? You think I wanted to be tied to the daughter of my enemy? Lena froze. Enemy? Is that what I am to you? He shook his head immediately. No. You are everything I cannot have. Then why keep me here? Because the prophecy demands it. Oh, there it is again. She laughed bitterly. The prophecy. Your favorite excuse for every terrible thing you do. He didn't respond. Lena moved toward him, fury replacing fear. You talk about destiny like it gives you the right to decide my life. You killed my father, Darius. And you didn't even tell me. His jaw clenched. If I had told you sooner, you would have run. You should have let me. He took a step forward, his voice cracking. I can't lose you again. That stopped her. Again. Her heart pounded. What do you mean again? He hesitated, then said, every time your soul returns, I find you. And every time, I lose you. Either to death, or to hate. Lena's throat tightened. So this has happened before. Many times. And each time, you She couldn't even say the word. He nodded once. Yes. Her chest ached, anger warring with pity. Then maybe fate's trying to tell you something. Maybe this is the universe's way of saying let me go. I can't, he whispered. You don't understand what will happen if I do. Try me. He looked at her for a long moment, then said softly, if the bond breaks, the curse consumes us both. Your soul vanishes. Mine becomes the monster I was born to be. Sounds like you're already there, she muttered. He flinched. If you truly believe that, then end it now. Before she could react, he picked up a dagger from the table and held it out to her, hilt first. Go on. Kill me. Break the curse. Lena stared, trembling. You're insane. Maybe. But at least then you'll be free. Stop it, she shouted, tears spilling down her face. You think this fixes anything? That this makes me forgive you? No, he said quietly. It just means I'm done hurting you. He dropped the dagger and turned away. For a moment, she just stood there, her chest heaving. Then she walked past him, grabbed the dagger from the floor, and threw it across the room. It clattered against the wall. You don't get to give up. Not after everything you've done. He looked at her, surprise flickering across his face. You want to fix this, she said. Then prove it. Prove that you can be better than whatever curse made you this way. His voice was low, almost broken. You'd give me that chance. I didn't say I'd forgive you, she said. But if fate wants us tied together, then I'm not going down quietly. He took a hesitant step forward. You're stronger than any of them. Yeah, well, she said, forcing a shaky smile, you make it easy to build character. For the first time in days, something like warmth flickered in his eyes. You remind me what it's like to fight. Good, she said. Because if you ever lie to me again, I'll find out and I'll end you myself. He nodded solemnly. Fair. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was something fragile, like two storms pausing just long enough to catch their breath before colliding again. Darius turned toward the window, his voice quiet. The council has called for another meeting tomorrow. They want to test your power. Great, she muttered. Nothing says therapy like supernatural trials. They'll want blood. Then they'll get it, she said, surprising herself. Mine, theirs, or yours, I don't care. I'm done being a pawn. He looked back at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, he didn't see a fragile mortal. He saw his equal. And it terrified him. That night, long after he left, Lena stood at the window watching the storm roll across the valley. The lightning lit up the dark sky in flashes of silver. Her wrist burned again, brighter than before, as if answering something unseen. Maybe fate was watching. Or maybe it was waiting. Either way, she wasn't running anymore. If destiny wanted a war, it had found one. The storm never truly stopped. By the next night, thunder still rolled over the mountains, and the castle's torches burned like tiny defiant hearts in the dark. Lena stood in the grand hall, her arms crossed, watching as Darius's guards prepared the chambers for the council's trial. She had no idea what they planned to test: her power, her loyalty, or her will to survive. Probably all three. Darius approached from the shadows, his expression grave. You don't have to do this. Lena gave a small, humorless laugh. That's funny. I didn't think I had a choice in anything anymore. You have a choice now, he said. Refuse them. I'll deal with the consequences. She turned to face him. And make it look like I'm hiding something? You think they'd just let me walk away after what happened in the council chamber? His jaw tightened. They wouldn't dare harm you. Right, she said flatly. Because you're the big scary vampire king. That worked out great last time. He flinched. You still don't trust me. Trust, she echoed. You killed my father, lied to me, and literally kidnapped me. Take a guess. He said nothing. Lena sighed, exhaustion softening her anger. Look, Darius. I don't hate you, not completely. But I can't keep pretending this, whatever this is, makes sense. He stepped closer. It doesn't have to make sense. It only has to be real. She looked up at him, her pulse quickening. You really believe that? I do. Their eyes locked for a moment too long, until Myra entered and broke the silence. "My king. The council awaits." Lena drew in a slow breath. "Guess it's showtime." The council chamber was colder than before. The 12 elders stood in a circle, candles flickering between them. The air smelled faintly of ash and blood. Victor was there, of course, wearing that smug, cruel smile Lena had come to despise. "Bring forth the mortal," he said. Lena resisted the urge to roll her eyes. "You know, you could just call me by my name." Victor ignored her, turning to Darius. "You've risked our kingdom for this, human. If she truly carries the red soul, she must prove it." Darius's voice was calm, but dangerous. "And if she doesn't?" Victor smiled thinly. "Then the curse will claim her before dawn." Lena's throat tightened, but she refused to show fear. "Fine," she said. "What do you want me to do? Glow on command?" Victor gestured toward a silver bowl filled with dark liquid. "Drink." Lena hesitated. "What is it?" "Blood," he said simply. "Whose?" He smiled wider. "Yours." She blinked. "That doesn't even make sense." "It's symbolic," Victor said. "Your blood binds our fate. If you are the true vessel, the red soul will awaken when your essence meets its mirror." Darius's hand twitched at his side. "Victor, this is not a trial, it's a trap." But Lena had already stepped forward. "It's fine," she said. "If this is what it takes to end your little prophecy drama, I'll do it." Before Darius could stop her, she lifted the bowl and drank. The moment the liquid touched her tongue, the world spun. Heat spread through her veins, fire burning under her skin. Her vision blurred, flashes of faces she didn't know: Lysandra, a battlefield, a crown of thorns. Screams, blood, and then silence. When she gasped and dropped the bowl, her wrist blazed with light. The mark pulsed like a heartbeat. The council members stepped back in fear. Victor's eyes widened. "Impossible." Lena fell to her knees, clutching her wrist. "What's happening?" Darius was beside her in an instant, his hands on her shoulders. "It's the awakening. Breathe, Lena." Her eyes glowed gold for a heartbeat before dimming. When she looked up again, the room was silent. Victor recovered first. "So the prophecy is true. The red soul lives." He turned toward Darius. "Then she must be controlled before she destroys us all." Darius's voice was ice. "Touch her, and I'll end you where you stand." Victor smirked. "You think you can protect her from the fates? You can't even protect her from me." Then, before anyone could move, Victor raised his hand. A pulse of dark energy exploded through the chamber. Darius shouted her name, then everything went black. When Lena woke, her wrists were bound in iron chains that burned her skin. She was lying on cold stone. A faint torch flickered nearby. The air smelled of dust and blood. "Great," she muttered weakly. "Kidnapped again. My favorite theme." A voice from the shadows replied, smooth and mocking. "You really should stop trusting him." Victor stepped into the light, his eyes glowing faint red. Lena glared at him. "If this is another prophecy lecture, I'm tuning out." He chuckled. "You really are amusing. No wonder he's obsessed." "Where is Darius?" she demanded. "Alive," Victor said. "For now. He'll come for you, of course. He always does. It's his greatest weakness." She strained against the chains. "You won't get away with this." "Oh, I already have." He crouched beside her. "Tell me, little vessel, do you know what happens when the red soul dies before the prophecy ends?" She stared at him. "No, and I don't care. The king dies with her," Victor said softly. "And the curse resets. 1,000 years of peace, all undone." Lena's heart stuttered. "You're lying." He smiled. "Am I? Perhaps you should test it." She shook her head. "Why are you doing this?" "Because," he said, "the prophecy is a lie. The fates never meant to save us. They meant to chain us forever to mortals like you." He stood, his voice rising. "You are his prison, Lena. Every time your soul returns, you anchor him to his humanity. I intend to break that chain." Her pulse raced. "You'll kill him." "I'll free him," Victor said. "And take his throne." Before she could reply, he turned and left, the heavy door slamming shut behind him. Lena slumped against the wall, fear clawing at her chest. Her wrists burned where the iron touched them, but beneath the pain, something else stirred: heat, power, light. She closed her eyes, focusing on it. The mark pulsed stronger. "Come on," she whispered. "If you're really fate's gift, do something useful." The chains began to glow faintly, cracks forming in the iron. Then, with a snap, they shattered. Lena stared in shock, rubbing her wrists. "Okay. That's new." She stood and moved to the door. It was thick wood reinforced with metal, but she could feel the energy humming inside her. She pressed her hand against the lock and light flared. The metal melted like wax. She stepped out into the hallway. Somewhere in the distance, she heard shouting, Darius's voice. She ran toward it. The castle's lower dungeons were a maze of stone and darkness. Lena sprinted through them, guided only by instinct and the faint psychic thread tugging inside her chest. It wasn't her heart. It was the bond. It led her through winding corridors until she reached a heavy door guarded by 2 vampires. She ducked behind a pillar, whispering, "Okay, think. You can't fight vampires." Her hand trembled. She looked at her glowing wrist. "Or maybe you can." The guards turned as light erupted from the shadows. One hissed, blinded. Lena thrust out her palm, and a burst of energy exploded from her hand, sending both flying backward. She stared at her hand. Holy crap! Inside, Darius was bound by silver chains, blood streaking his face. He looked up when she entered, disbelief flickering across his expression. "Lena!" She ran to him, fumbling with the chains. "You look terrible." "You shouldn't be here," he rasped. "Yeah, well, you're welcome. Victor will kill you." He tried. It didn't stick. His lips curved faintly despite the blood. "You're reckless." "Thanks," she said, yanking at the chains. They didn't budge. He winced as she touched them. "They're forged with cursed silver. You'll burn." "Then I'll burn." Light flared from her palms again, brighter this time. The chains cracked, hissed, and shattered. Darius collapsed forward, catching himself on one knee. She grabbed his arm to steady him. "You saved me," he said quietly. "Don't sound so surprised." He looked at her, eyes full of something raw: pride, or maybe love. "I told you the bond was complete." "Yeah," she said, smiling shakily. "Turns out I'm useful after all." The moment broke when the door burst open. Victor strode in, flanked by guards. "So touching," he said. "But the end comes for both of you." Darius pushed Lena behind him. "You'll touch her over my ashes." Victor laughed. "You think you can stop me, brother?" Lena froze. "Brother?" Darius's voice was cold. "We share blood, not loyalty." Victor sneered. "And she shares your curse. I'll end both." He lunged, faster than sight. Darius met him midair, claws and fangs flashing. The room erupted in chaos. Lena backed away, trying to stay out of the fight, but Victor's guard grabbed her, slamming her into the wall. Pain exploded through her skull. She kicked, struggling. "Get off me." The guard snarled, fangs bared, then burst into ash as light exploded from her wrist again. She stared, panting. "Okay, definitely useful." The brothers clashed, strength shaking the walls. Darius drove Victor back, but Victor caught him across the face, sending him sprawling. "Always the hero," Victor sneered, raising his blade. "Always the fool." Lena didn't think. She grabbed the fallen dagger from the floor and threw it. It struck Victor in the chest. He roared, stumbling back. Darius was on him in a flash, pinning him to the ground. "Yield," Darius snarled. Victor's eyes burned red. "Never." Darius hesitated for a heartbeat. Then, with a single motion, he drove the blade into Victor's heart. The room went silent. Victor's body dissolved into ash. Lena stood frozen, breathing hard. Gone. For now," Darius said. His voice was weary, his body trembling. "But the council will rise against me for this." "Then we run," she said. He shook his head. "There's nowhere to run." The curse binds us to this land. She met his gaze, fierce and steady. Then we fight. He smiled faintly. You sound like her. Lysandra? He nodded. And that terrifies me. She reached out, taking his hand. Then hold on tight, King. Because I'm not planning to die like her. His fingers tightened around hers. Neither am I. Outside, thunder rumbled again, but this time, it sounded like applause. The night after Victor's death was unnaturally still. The rain had stopped, the sky moonless, as if the heavens themselves were holding their breath. Lena stood on the castle balcony, staring out over the valley below. The forests stretched endlessly, silvered in mist. Somewhere out there, she knew the council was gathering. Victor's death wouldn't go unanswered. Behind her, Darius moved quietly. She didn't turn when he spoke. You should rest. She gave a small laugh. You've been saying that since the day I got here. Still not listening. He stepped beside her, the faintest hint of amusement touching his voice. Some habits die hard. Some never do, she said softly. Like secrets. He exhaled, his tone low. You think I still hide things from you. I know you do, she said, finally turning to him. You always do. Even when you think it's for my own good. He didn't deny it. His gaze drifted to the dark woods below. If you knew the last part of the prophecy, you'd understand why I kept it hidden. Her pulse quickened. The last part? He hesitated. Then, as if making a decision he'd dreaded for centuries, he met her eyes. The prophecy says, when the red soul awakens, the curse will end in blood. One must die, or both will burn. Lena stared at him, the words hitting like cold water. So that's it. Fate wants one of us dead. He nodded slowly. It always has. A silence fell between them, heavy and raw. She tried to keep her voice steady. And how many times has this played out before? How many times did I die? Every time, he whispered. Her chest tightened. And you just watched it happen? His jaw clenched. I tried to stop it. I failed. Each time I thought I could change fate, it tore you from me anyway. So what makes this time different? He looked at her with an intensity that made her heart stutter. You. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters. She turned away, gripping the balcony rail. You think love is stronger than fate? I think love is fate, he said quietly. She didn't respond. The wind whipped her hair around her face, the night air charged with something electric. Finally, she said, if one of us has to die, maybe it should be me. He was beside her in an instant, grabbing her shoulders, his voice fierce. Don't say that. It's my fault this curse exists, isn't it? My bloodline. My soul. Maybe if I end it. Enough, he snapped. Don't you dare think your life is less than mine. She stared at him, anger flaring through the fear. Then what do we do, Darius? Just wait until fate decides which of us burns. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. We fight fate itself. Sounds easy, she said bitterly. He smiled faintly. Nothing worth saving ever is. They stood in silence again, the only sound the wind moaning through the spires. Finally, Darius said, there's something else. Victor wasn't working alone. The council plans to use the prophecy to seize power. They'll come for you at dawn. Lena straightened. Then we don't wait for them. He frowned. What are you saying? I'm saying we strike first. He studied her face for a long moment, then gave a slow, approving nod. You really are her. Lena smiled, grim and steady. No. I'm me. And I'm tired of running. They spent the next hours preparing. Darius gathered his loyal guards, a small band who still stood by him despite the council's rebellion. Myra brought Lena a cloak lined with silver thread. It will shield you from their spells, she said. Lena pulled it on, fastening the clasp. Thanks. You know, I used to think my biggest problem was unpaid rent. Myra's lips curved faintly. You were born for more than a mortal life. Yeah, Lena muttered. Fate keeps reminding me. When the first light of dawn crept over the mountains, they set out. The council's fortress lay deep in the ravine below, carved into the cliffs. Its towers rose like spears of black stone. As they approached, Lena's nerves buzzed, but under it all was a strange calm. She wasn't the same woman who had stumbled into this world. She had power now and a purpose. Darius walked beside her, silent but steady. His hand brushed hers briefly, a wordless promise. They entered through the outer gate. The guards didn't challenge them, they'd already chosen sides. Inside, the great hall of the council was empty except for 3 elders standing before the throne. The air shimmered faintly, magic humming in the walls. Victor's seat was empty. The eldest, a woman draped in silver robes, turned as they entered. So, the cursed king and his mortal queen return. Lena forced a tight smile. Guess we missed the invitation. You've defied sacred law, the woman said. Killed your own blood. Do you think the fates will spare you? I'm done letting the fates decide anything, Darius said coldly. Then you'll die defying them. The air crackled. The council raised their hands, chanting words that made the floor tremble. Lena's wrist ignited in light. She felt the power surge through her, fierce and wild. Darius drew his blade. Stay behind me. Not this time, she said. The first blast of energy struck them, and everything exploded into chaos. The room filled with fire and shadow. Darius moved like lightning, deflecting one spell after another, his sword a blur of light. Lena felt her power respond to his every movement, every heartbeat synced. She lifted her hands, and golden light erupted from her palms, slamming into one of the elders. The woman screamed as the energy consumed her. Another spell shot toward Darius. Lena stepped in front of him without thinking, catching it midair. It burned her palms, but she held it, turning it back in a burst of fire that shattered the ceiling. Darius shouted her name, but she didn't stop. The power inside her roared, fierce and alive. The remaining elders tried to flee, but Darius was faster. In moments, it was over. The hall fell silent except for the sound of their breathing. Lena swayed, dizzy. Did we just win? Darius caught her as she stumbled. For now. Her skin felt like fire. The mark on her wrist burned brighter than ever. Darius, she whispered. Something's wrong. He looked down and froze. The light from her mark was spreading up her arm, into her chest. Her heartbeat was slowing. No, he said. No, not again. She tried to smile. Guess fate doesn't like to lose. He held her face in his hands. You're not dying. I won't let it happen. Maybe this is how the curse ends, she said weakly. Maybe it needs one of us. Then it will be me. Darius. He pressed his forehead against hers, whispering something ancient, something that made the air hum. His blood, still wet on his hands, glowed faintly red. He drew a mark across his chest and pressed her hand to it. The room filled with light. When it faded, she was on the floor, gasping. The light was gone. Darius knelt beside her, pale and trembling. What did you do? She whispered. I gave you my life, he said softly. The curse demanded blood. It didn't say whose. Her eyes widened. No. You can't. I can, he said. And I did. She touched his face, tears spilling down her cheeks. You idiot. He smiled faintly. You're welcome. She laughed through the tears. You can't die now. We just started winning. He shook his head, his hand brushing her cheek. You broke the cycle. That's all that matters. Then his eyes closed, and his body went still. At first, Lena didn't realize what had happened. The silence that followed was too deep, too wrong. Then she felt it, the bond. The heartbeat that had always pulsed faintly inside her, was gone. No, she whispered. No, please. She shook him, but he didn't move. The mark on her wrist dimmed, fading until it was nothing but a scar. The world outside the hall seemed to shift. The ground trembled. Myra burst through the doorway, blood on her clothes. Lena. The council's army, they're attacking. Lena turned, her voice breaking. He's gone. Myra froze. The king. Lena stood slowly, her body shaking. Get everyone out. What are you? Do it, she said, her voice suddenly steady. Now. Myra hesitated, then nodded and ran. Lena looked down at Darius one last time, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "You wanted me to fight fate," she whispered. "Fine." She stood, and something inside her broke open. Light, pure, blinding, erupted from her chest, sweeping through the hall. Her eyes glowed gold again, but this time there was no pain. Only fury. Outside, the army of the council surged across the field, thousands of vampires with blades drawn. Lena walked out to meet them. The storm clouds churned overhead as she raised her hands. The ground split open beneath her, flames pouring through the cracks. The first wave of soldiers charged. She didn't flinch. The light from her body flared brighter, and they disintegrated before they reached her. Screams filled the air. The battlefield glowed like a sunrise made of fire. She moved like something not human, every pulse of her power echoing Darius's name. Each enemy that fell seemed to feed her strength, until even the mountains trembled. By the time the fighting stopped, there was nothing left but silence and ash. Lena stood at the center of the ruin, trembling. Her vision blurred, her energy spent. Myra approached slowly, awe in her eyes. "You ended it." Lena looked down at her hands. "No," she whispered. "He did." Myra hesitated. "What will you do now?" Lena turned toward the castle. The dawn was breaking, light spilling over the towers. "I'll rebuild it," she said quietly. "In his name." She walked back through the shattered gates, the crown of the vampire king lying where it had fallen. She picked it up, the metal cold in her hands. And as the first sunlight touched her face, she whispered, "The crimson crown belongs to both of us." Somewhere deep within her, the faintest echo of his heartbeat answered. The sky burned red when the sun rose over the valley. Smoke still curled from the charred remains of the battlefield. The air smelled of blood, fire, and endings. Lena walked slowly through the ruin. Her boots crunched over ash. The silence was deafening. The light of dawn hit the broken stones of the council's fortress, turning them gold. Bodies had already turned to dust, vampire remains scattered like shadows that never made it to morning. Myra followed a few paces behind, her cloak torn, her face pale but resolute. "You should rest," she said quietly. Lena didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the horizon, where the faint glimmer of Darius's castle could be seen far away, half in mist. "He wouldn't want you to." Lena stopped. Her voice was flat, steady. "He's gone because of me." Myra hesitated. "He made his choice." "I know," Lena said. "But it doesn't make it easier." She crouched, running her fingers through the ashes at her feet. The remnants of what had been Victor's army drifted away with the wind. "I thought ending the curse would feel like victory," she whispered. "It just feels empty." Myra knelt beside her. "You're alive. That's something he fought for." Lena's throat tightened. "And now I have to live with it." The mark on her wrist, once blazing with light, had faded to a faint scar. She rubbed at it absent-mindedly. "I can't even feel him anymore," she said softly. "Maybe he's not gone," Myra said. "Not completely." Lena looked up. "What do you mean?" Myra hesitated, her eyes thoughtful. "The curse is broken, yes, but the bond between you was older than the curse. Older than fate itself. Bonds like that don't vanish. They change." Lena frowned. "Change how?" "Sometimes they return." She wanted to believe it. She wanted to cling to that spark of hope, but her heart refused to trust it. "Even if that were true," she said, "where would he return to? The world hated him." "Then perhaps it needs to learn to love him through you," Myra said gently. Lena stood, brushing the ash from her hands. The sun was climbing higher, and with it came an unfamiliar warmth. For centuries, vampires had hidden from the light. But now, under its glow, nothing burned. The curse truly was gone. She turned to Myra. "We'll rebuild." "Rebuild?" "The court," Lena said. "The kingdom. Everything he wanted to protect. I'll make sure it survives." Myra's eyes softened. "You'll need a crown." Lena smiled faintly. "Already have one." She reached into her cloak and pulled out the crimson crown she had taken from the battlefield. The metal shimmered like blood and fire in the sunlight. Help me gather the survivors, she said. We start today. It took weeks to gather what was left of the realm. Vampires from the scattered covens arrived one by one, drawn by whispers of a human queen who walked in sunlight and wore the king's crown. Many came out of curiosity, some out of fear, others out of hope. Lena met them all in the grand hall of Darius's castle, now her castle. This kingdom was built on darkness, she said to them, her voice echoing through the chamber. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Darius believed we could be more than monsters. I intend to prove him right. There were murmurs among the crowd, doubt, agreement, awe. A tall vampire in a tattered coat stepped forward. And what of the humans? Will you rule them as he did? No, Lena said. I'll rule with them. The world has changed. It's time we changed with it. Some hissed under their breath. Others nodded. Myra stood at her side, silent and watchful. Lena's voice hardened. If anyone cannot accept that, you are free to leave. But know this, if you raise a weapon against what we build here, I will burn your shadow from the world. Her power flickered, faint light glowing beneath her skin. It was enough to silence the room. When it was over, Myra leaned close and whispered, "You sounded just like him." Lena smiled sadly. "I'll take that as a compliment." That night, when the castle was quiet, she walked to Darius's old chambers. Everything was still where he had left it, the armor, the books, the sword hanging on the wall. His scent still lingered in the air, faint and haunting. She sat on the edge of the bed and whispered into the emptiness. "I did it. We survived." The silence didn't answer, but she imagined his voice anyway. "I told you you'd win." Her chest ached. "I wish you could see it." A gust of wind slipped through the open window, cool and soft against her face. The candlelight flickered. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw his silhouette in the mirror, a faint reflection of silver eyes and a quiet smile. Then it was gone. She didn't cry. Not this time. She just lay down, holding his old cloak against her chest, and whispered, "Wherever you are, don't stop fighting. Because neither will I." Weeks turned into months. Under Lena's rule, the Crimson Court began to rise again. The walls were rebuilt, the banners restored. But something within her was changing too, something she couldn't ignore. She didn't need sleep anymore. Her wounds healed faster. Her eyes, once brown, now shimmered faintly gold in the dark. It started the night she was attacked. A group of old loyalists to Victor ambushed her carriage on the road. She fought them off easily, her strength unnatural. When one of them managed to pierce her side with a blade, the wound closed before her eyes. She stared at the unbroken skin in disbelief. "No." Myra found her minutes later, her expression grave. "It's begun." "What's begun?" "The transformation." Lena shook her head. "That's impossible. The curse is gone." "The curse, yes," Myra said. "But Darius's blood still runs through you. When he gave his life for yours, his essence merged with your own." Lena's voice trembled. "You mean I'm becoming a vampire?" Myra finished softly. "Or something greater?" Lena staggered back. "No. I can't. I walk in sunlight, You're not one of them anymore, but you're not human either. You're something in between." Lena sank to her knees, her breath coming fast. "He wouldn't have wanted this." Myra's gaze softened. "He would have wanted you to live." Lena pressed her palms to her eyes. "Then why does it feel like I'm losing myself?" That night, she locked herself in her chambers and stared at her reflection. Her skin was too pale, her pupils sharp like a cat's. She looked both familiar and foreign. "Who are you?" she whispered to the mirror. Her reflection didn't answer. Days passed, and the hunger began. Not for food, but for blood. It came quietly at first, a whisper in her veins. Then it grew louder, insistent, impossible to ignore. She tried to resist. She drank water until she felt sick. She forced herself to eat mortal food. Nothing helped. One night, it became unbearable. She stumbled into the courtyard, her vision blurring, her body trembling. Myra found her there, collapsed on the cold stone. "Lena," she cried, rushing forward. Lena's voice was hoarse. "I can't. Stop it." Myra pressed her wrist to Lena's lips. Then don't. Lena tried to refuse. No. Take it, Myra said firmly. Better me than the ones who fear you. Lena's will broke. Her fangs slid down before she even realized they were there. She bit gently, just enough to taste. The blood was fire burning, alive, overwhelming. It filled her with heat and light and sorrow. She pulled away quickly, gasping, eyes glowing gold again. Myra steadied her. You're stronger now. I didn't want this, Lena whispered. I know, Myra said. But it's what he left you. His strength. His legacy. Lena looked down at her trembling hands. And his curse. Myra shook her head. No. His gift. The next day, Lena walked through the courtyard at noon. The sun hit her face, and for the first time, it didn't burn. A small group of vampires watched from the shadows, murmuring among themselves. She walks in daylight, one whispered. She's not mortal, another said. Not anymore. Lena met their eyes. You're right, she said. I'm not. But neither are you if you choose not to be. They bowed their heads. The legend of the Sun Queen, the immortal who carried both day and night within her, began that day. That night, when the moon rose, Lena stood alone on the balcony. She still felt him, faint, distant, like a heartbeat on the edge of memory. I'm changing, she whispered. And I don't know if you'd still recognize me. The wind stirred again, brushing her hair across her face. A familiar warmth spread through her chest, gentle as a hand on her heart. Maybe she was imagining it. Maybe not. Either way, she smiled through the ache. Then I'll keep becoming whatever I have to, she said softly. Because this time, I'm not waiting for fate. I'm writing it. The stars seemed to brighten, as if they approved. And far beyond the veil between worlds, someone stirred. A voice, faint and familiar, whispered back to her through the darkness. Then I'll find you again, my queen. No matter how many lifetimes it takes. Lena closed her eyes, a single tear tracing down her cheek. Then hurry, she whispered. Because I'm not done fighting. The moonlight bathed her in silver and gold, and for the first time since his death, she didn't feel alone. The castle's great hall was alive again, torches blazing, the banners of the Crimson Court unfurled. But beneath the shine of rebirth, tension simmered like a hidden fire. Lena sat on the throne at the far end of the room, the crimson crown resting lightly against her dark hair. She hadn't meant to keep it. It felt too heavy, too full of ghosts. Yet every time she took it off, something inside her twisted, as if the metal itself remembered who it belonged to. Myra stood beside her, calm but watchful, as the council of surviving elders gathered before the throne. They had come to demand answers. One of them, a thin, severe-looking man with grey eyes, stepped forward first. The curse is broken, he said coldly. The old king is gone. The council must decide what becomes of the throne now. Lena's gaze stayed steady. You're looking at it. A murmur rippled through the hall. Another elder hissed, You? You are neither human nor vampire. You are an abomination. Careful, Myra said softly, her tone deadly calm. Lena raised a hand to silence her. No, let him speak. She stood slowly, every motion measured. You think I don't know what I am? You think I wanted this? Her voice echoed through the room, sharper than steel. I didn't ask to become your queen. I didn't ask to carry his curse or his blood. But I did what none of you could. I ended the war. I broke the curse. And I'm the only reason any of you are still breathing. The elder faltered, but another stepped forward. We don't deny your strength, but you can't rule us. You carry the blood of both prey and predator. The balance is unnatural. Unnatural, she repeated, a faint smile touching her lips. Maybe that's exactly what this world needs. The torches flickered. Power rippled faintly from her, warm and golden, pushing against the cold stone air. The elders glanced at one another nervously. You will bring ruin, the grey-eyed elder warned. Your presence defies the natural order. Lena descended the dais, her steps echoing. The natural order was centuries of blood and fear. If that's what you want to preserve, then yes, I'll destroy it. Her eyes flashed gold for an instant. The council recoiled. Myra's quiet voice broke the silence. You forget, she carries the king's mark. The same power that once held your loyalty. You owe her the same. The grey-eyed elder bowed his head reluctantly. Then what is your decree, my queen? Lena hesitated. She hadn't wanted this power, this rule, but now, standing before them, she understood what Darius must have felt every day. The burden of leading those who didn't trust him, of carrying peace in one hand and destruction in the other. My decree, she said finally, is change. The word fell like thunder. No more feeding on the innocent. No more wars between human and vampire. We rebuild as one kingdom or not at all. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. That will never hold, one whispered. The old ways are dead, Lena said, her voice sharp. Just like the ones who clung to them. Her power hummed again, warm, golden, and unyielding. No one argued after that. When the council left, Myra turned to her. You did well. Lena sank back onto the throne, exhaustion washing over her. I just declared peace to a room full of murderers. How long do you think it'll last? As long as they fear you, Myra said. Lena gave a tired smile. That's not the kind of queen I want to be. Then make them respect you, Myra replied simply. Lena stared at the empty hall. For a moment, she could almost see Darius standing in the shadows near the steps, his silver eyes soft with pride. She whispered, barely audible, you'd hate how political this is. Myra glanced at her. Talking to him again? Lena sighed. It's the only way to keep from falling apart. Myra hesitated, then said quietly, maybe he's closer than you think. Before Lena could reply, the great doors burst open. A guard stumbled in, blood staining his armor. My queen, he gasped. They've returned. Lena stood immediately. Who? The exiled clans, he said. They're gathering at the borders. They demand your surrender. Myra's eyes darkened. The ones who refused peace. Lena nodded slowly, her voice hardening. Then they'll get war instead. That night, she couldn't sleep. She wandered through the corridors until she reached the balcony overlooking the forest. The moon hung low, red as blood. Another war, she muttered. It never ends. Some battles never do, said a voice behind her. She froze. It wasn't Myra's voice. She turned, and the world stopped. Darius stood there, or what remained of him. His form was faint, his edges blurred by mist, but his eyes, those impossible silver eyes, were real. Lena's breath caught. No, you're not. Alive, he finished gently. Not in the way you remember. She stepped closer, trembling. I saw you die. I felt it. He smiled faintly. And still you live. You broke the curse. Her throat closed. Then why are you here? To remind you that the fight isn't over, he said. The exiled clans carry remnants of the curse. They'll try to restore it through blood. Lena's hands clenched at her sides. Then I'll stop them. You can't do it alone. I'm not alone. He reached out as if to touch her, but his hand passed through hers like smoke. You are, he whispered. For now. Tears burned her eyes. You're coming back. You have to. He smiled, sad, knowing. If fate allows. I don't care about fate, she cried. I'll find a way. I'll bring you back. The wind stirred, scattering his form like mist. His voice lingered, soft and fading. Then I'll wait. Always. When he vanished, the night felt colder than ever. Lena stood there for a long time, the echo of his words carved into her soul. She didn't sleep after that. At dawn, she donned her armor, the same black steel Darius had once worn, and called her army to the gates. If fate wanted to test her again, it would have to bleed for it. The war came with fire. The exiled clans swept down from the mountains at sunrise, their banners black as the smoke that followed them. They were led by Lord Kale, Victor's last surviving general, a vampire older than Darius, fueled by vengeance and the remnants of the curse. Lena met him on the battlefield. You wear his crown, Kale sneered. But you're no king. You're a pretender wrapped in mortal flesh. She drew her blade. You talk too much. He laughed. You think breaking the curse made you strong? The blood that runs through you is still human. You'll die like one. Try me, she said, and charged. The clash was thunder. Her sword met his, steel ringing through the valley. Around them, the armies collided, light and shadow, blood and fire. Kale was faster, stronger, his strikes brutal. But Lena moved with purpose, each motion guided by something deeper than instinct, memory. She could almost hear Darius's voice in her head, whispering, "Aim for the heart." Kale swung, grazing her arm. The cut sizzled but healed instantly. His eyes widened. "Impossible." "Not anymore," she said, and struck back. Their blades locked. Sparks flew. Kale snarled. "You can't escape the curse. You are the curse." Lena's eyes glowed gold. "Then I'll be its end." She pushed, light bursting from her sword. It cut through his defenses, through his chest, through the remnants of darkness that clung to his soul. Kale screamed, his body turning to ash. The field fell silent. The enemy army froze, watching their leader crumble. Lena lowered her sword, her voice steady. "The curse is dead. Go home." One by one, they dropped their weapons and knelt. When it was over, the valley was quiet except for the whisper of wind through the burned grass. Myra approached, her face streaked with ash. "It's done." Lena nodded, her strength fading. "For now." "You won," Myra said. "You ended it." Lena looked at the rising sun. "No," she murmured. "We did." She turned back toward the castle, her cloak dragging through the dust. Every step felt heavier, her body trembling with exhaustion and something deeper, grief. When she reached the throne room, she removed the crown and placed it on the seat. "No more kings," she whispered. "No more queens. Just peace." The mark on her wrist pulsed faintly. She closed her eyes. "I kept my promise." The air shifted. When she opened her eyes again, Darius stood before her, not mist, not memory, but real. Solid. Whole. Her breath caught. "Darius." He smiled, his voice soft but alive. "You called me back." Tears welled in her eyes. "I told you I would." He stepped closer, cupping her face in his hands. "You defied fate." She laughed through her tears. "Told you I was stubborn." He kissed her then, gentle, deep, endless. The world seemed to stop. When they finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "What now?" Lena smiled through the ache in her chest. "Now we live. Not as king and queen. Just us." Darius's eyes shone silver in the sunlight. "Together. Always." They stood there as dawn poured through the broken windows, the light touching both of them for the first time. The curse was gone. The war was over. And for the first time in centuries, love had won not by fate, but by choice. If you felt the pull of fate tonight, if you walked through the shadows and the light with Lena and Darius, then don't let the story end here. Hit that like button, share this world with someone who loves dark romance as much as you do, and subscribe for the next chapter of love, power, and destiny. Because in this world, fate is only the beginning.